Alright, today we're going to talk about X-Men First Class and... fuck. I think I forgot the name of the movie I was also watching. Was X-Men First Class that good? Trying to remember. I believe... Oh, yeah, no, I remember. X-Men First Class, let's just start with X-Men First Class, because X-Men First Class was a romp to get through. It was very entertaining. I had seen it back in 2011 when it was in cinemas, and I also remember being very entertained by it. But I also sort of was somewhat disappointed that Patrick Stewart wasn't in it. This time around, it didn't matter as much. It was more a thing of me kind of really enjoying what was going on, and also me realizing that Kevin Bacon was in there, which meant that every few seconds I just kind of went off going like, man, this dude, one of these days something's gonna happen. He's gonna get real fucking aggressive, and then he's gonna let loose, foot loose, and he's gonna put on his Sunday shoes. No way, he's gonna kick off his Sunday shoes. I fucked that quote up, but it doesn't matter because he is indeed a very entertaining villain for this movie. I have to admit, I kind of forgot his name already. I have no idea what character he played, like name-wise. I know that he played some dude who could absorb energy that was directed at him, like explosions and whatnot, which is a really cool thing to do. But other than that, I don't know if he's from the X-Men comics or if he's from the TV show, if they just invented them for the movie. Who can fucking tell? Who can tell, right? Besides that, we got another actor's name I forgot. Another actor's name whom I forgot. Good Lord, come on, he wasn't in Inglourious Basterds, I know that much. And that's important because, as it turns out, I completely missed the fact that he wasn't in Inglourious Basterds. Not Christoph Waltz, obviously, he's not in the movie. The fella who plays Magneto, as of yet to name himself Magneto, he does at the end of the movie, but, up until that point, he's Eric Landshaar. And, Christ, I wish I remember the name of the actor, but I'm recording this video with my phone, so I can't even use my phone to look him up. It doesn't matter. He is very good in his role. He is not quite he's not quite an Ian McKellen, but that's mostly due to the fact that Ian McKellen is a bit more seasoned than the dude whose name I forgot. But I already knew that the dude who plays Magneto had some great acting chops, because, once again, I was then reminded of the fact that he was in Inglourious Basterds. And because he's Irish-German, that one I had to look up, because I needed to verify whether or not his heritage was, like, his immediate heritage. I'm not talking about his fucking great-great-great-great-grandmother, but, like, more his sort of immediate heritage involved German people, because the movie has a few scenes in it in which Magneto, as well as the dude who then later is played by Kevin Bacon, I believe. Was it true? Is that true? Yeah. They speak in German. And the first scene in which they speak German to each other is an atrocious display of phonetically fucking everything up. The kid actor who plays Magneto or Eric or whatever is not... I mean, he's okay-ish, but you sure as shit would not believe that he was born within Germany. You would never ever in a million years believe that. And neither would you think that of the explosion dude who is later then played by Kevin Bacon. However, as Magneto grows up and is finally played by the dude whose name I still can't remember, we get a display of a relatively close not necessarily accent-less performance, but nonetheless a performance that is close to being sort of native German in its sound. And that's commendable. That is very commendable. So, Magneto, obviously, once again, the actor did a great job. He portrayed this murderer to be as a boat passing by in front of my balcony. Yeah, I live next to a river. Anyhow, they had a Christmas tree on there. It was beautiful. But I don't want to show it to you because my room is a fucking mess right now. Anyhow, yeah, his performance was great and chilling. During the end, we have this specific scene of Magneto killing someone in a very bone-chilling kind of way, in a morbid type of twist, so to speak. And he does execute that execution with immense gravitas. I love it, and I love his performance. I also do not remember the name of the dude who played Professor X in this movie. Xavier. I have no idea what the actor's name is. I looked it up, but then I forgot it again. He also does a great job. He has that warmth to him. He has a Patrick Stewartian warmth to him. He's not necessarily like super Shakespearean or whatever. He doesn't quite have that Patrick Stewartian expression to him. Not quite, but almost. And he's very close to it, and close enough that you can believe that he would grow up. I mean, grow up is a weird way of putting it. He's a child for like 5 minutes in the movie. I mean, he's going to grow old. You could believe that he would grow old into Patrick Stewart. Not necessarily grow up, but you know what I'm insinuating. And yeah, I like the warmth that he gives, because that's a very important point of Professor Xavier as a character, that he is always there to try and see the good in people, regardless of what they've done before. Other than that, who else is in this movie? Well, Mystique. She's fun. I have to admit that. She's quite a lot of fun. Kevin Bacon, as I previously mentioned, is also funny as gravitas as a villain before the actual villain becomes a villain. The origin stories that are being told in this, I'm not 100% sure if I know where these specific X-Men come from, if they're from the comics, from other comics maybe from the 90s TV show. Yet again, I have no idea. The only ones that I could recognize were obviously Professor X, Magneto, Scott, aka Cyclops? I always mess that one up. The dude who can shoot lasers out of his eyes. Mystique, obviously. And I don't think anyone else. I mean, yeah, sure, fucking Hugh Jackman has a small cameo role as Wolverine in there, but I'll get to Hugh Jackman in a few seconds. It has an immensely memorable climax. It is a really memorable fight scene that we get to witness during the last few minutes of the movie, in which we see a nice roll call, so to speak, of everyone's powers, with the backdrop of the Cuba Missile Crisis. It is fucking amazing. It is really cool to watch that. Watch it again, mind you. I remember that part from watching it back in 2011. Like, that was one of the parts from the movie that really stuck 100% with me. Something that I already associated with this movie 100%. Like, there's no doubt about it. If I think about X-Men First Class, I think about the Cuban Missile Crisis and that scene specifically on the beach. There were quite a few scenes and quite a few introductions that I just kind of forgot about. I mean, I kind of knew that the black newly recruited X-Men was gonna die first. Wait, I'm not actually sure if he's really the first mutant to die, but I think he is. And that's kind of iffy. Maybe it wasn't on purpose. Actually, I believe obviously it was not on purpose. Nobody in Hollywood goes, oh yes, let's just kill off the black guy in this modern movie. First, let's just kill him first. The very first second of the movie. I mean, that didn't happen either. He was killed like over an hour into everything, but still, it felt a bit weird. But other than that, it worked rather well. It has lots of action in it. Got a few great character moments as well. And, well, I don't even know what to say other than that. It's just a great movie. There are great action scenes that I don't necessarily want to spoil for anyone who has not as of yet seen the movie, because I highly recommend this movie. I'll give it a 9 out of 10 when it comes to X-Men movies. Not necessarily as a movie in and of itself, but definitely as an X-Men movie. As a movie in and of itself, that's difficult because you can't really compare this kind of movie to any other kind of movie. Like the other movie that I'm going to talk about, which is Les Miserables. Les Miserables. Les Miserables. Les Miserables. Les Miserables. I don't know. French people just kind of, they always save money on the letters that they need to pronounce, or they just kind of don't pronounce. Les Miserables is obviously the adaptation, big silver screen musical adaptation of the musical of the same name that is based upon the book of the same name, in which we have a convict who tries to turn his life around and becomes first mayor of a town, and then actually I don't quite remember what he does in Paris. Something. He's still an important person, and then he adopts a girl, and then that girl grows up, and that girl falls in love, and she falls in love with some revolutionaries. But there's also this other girl who's also in love with these revolutionaries, specifically one revolutionary named Maurice, and a whole bunch of people die because it's the middle of the 19th century. Because of all that, and the revolution is happening. And it's pretty fucking cool. It's very moving. It's pretty cool, and honestly, it's a really good adaptation. I've seen Les Miserables back in 2015. I've seen it in London on the stage in the it's not Prince Charles Theatre. The Prince Charles Theatre is like this cinema where you can watch The Room once every month. I don't know, it's close to the Prince Charles Theatre where I saw it. But I saw it live on stage, and I thought it was kind of interesting. I had seen Les Miserables before the movie, but like back in 2012. So me rewatching it this year does mean something, because obviously quite a bit of time has passed. I couldn't quite remember everything about it. Honestly, I've probably rewatched the Nostalgia Critic review of Les Miserables, the movie from 2012, a lot more than I ever watched the movie. And yeah, I do believe there are some silly moments in there. And obviously everybody is banging on about Russell Crowe having a bizarre singing voice, which, let me be real honest here, that's not true. He has an acceptable singing voice. His singing voice is perfectly reasonable. It's not necessarily something that sticks out in an overly positive manner, but it is a singing voice that just works, and his singing is singing. It's just not. It's a point that was also made in the Nostalgia Critic review of Les Miserables, which I also rewatched after watching Les Miserables. The point that Russell Crowe is not a trained singer. He has a band, and he sings in that band probably the way that you would expect a 1962 John Lennon to sing like not overly expressive, but there's definitely melody in there, and there's all the notes are right, whatever, but it's not as expressive as it needs to be if you were to sing it live on stage on Broadway. Everyone else in this movie kind of does, do the whole Broadway kind of singing shtick, if maybe a bit shortened. Not all notes are being held as long as they are being held during a Broadway performance. In a Broadway performance, you have enough time, enough space, enough everything for these notes to be held as long as you need them to be held. Here, you don't necessarily have that luxury because there's the viewer's attention to be kept in mind. Some criticisms of this movie that I've heard of included the issue of everything being filmed in a close-up, which, lots of scenes are filmed in a close-up, and if you're not in for that, you'll feel somewhat uncomfortable, which I can 100% understand. Not gonna lie, that could be awkward for some viewers. Not for everyone. There are more than enough people who don't give a shit. Suspension of disbelief. It's supposed to... Actually, it has nothing to do with suspension of disbelief. The point that I think it is trying to make is that you always have these establishing and then ending crane shots. Quite often, I think they were made with CGI, but that doesn't really matter. The point is, we establish all these surroundings, all these new set pieces, one by one, with each new establishing shot, we don't really get too many totals, so to speak, where you could see the big crowds and whatnot. We get loads of close-ups, and that makes sense because only the establishing shots are there to tell you where we are. But what we need to know for this story is who we are dealing with, who is doing what, and let's also not forget that this is a messy kind of situation. We're talking about revolutions, real revolutions. Real revolutions are rarely epic. Real revolutions are messy. They are bloody. They are all kinds of disturbing. And having this close-up, having these close-ups, so to speak, helps get the viewer immersed in a sense of discombobulation, of feeling really bemused, of just kind of not necessarily knowing what's going on every now and again. It's a dirty look, and it's a confusing look, and it's just altogether something that feels somewhat uncomfortable, because this is an uncomfortable world. And it doesn't mean that the emotions other than confusion can't rise to the top. They can, and they do, quite often. I cried twice during this movie. And I believe they brought the musical onto the silver screen with grace, albeit not with the kind of grace you would expect from the actual musical, but the actual musical works differently. The actual musical is not a movie. And given what a musical can and can't do, I believe this is one of the best adaptations any musical has ever gotten. A musical cannot rely on a close-up. A movie can. I mean, it's one of the things that I had to kind of relearn when I'm participating in like a theatre production of sorts of Julius Caesar. It's amateur theatre. It doesn't really matter. At least in theory, I thought it wouldn't really matter. But I had to be reminded multiple times that on stage, if you act over the top, because everybody in the entire room needs to know what you're feeling, what you're thinking, etc., etc. Nobody in the audience is going to be able to watch you closely and see a small quiver of a lip, because they don't get a close-up unless they somehow invade the stage, in which case security needs to be called. But what I'm trying to say is, you have that luxury in a movie, and Les Miserables takes advantage of that. All these close-ups, all this hectic hammerjabash, all that stuff helps immerse you in the dirty and disturbing and confusing world of a revolutionary France. And because of that, as an adaptation, this movie gets a 10 out of 10. But as a movie itself, there are some moments that kind of catch you off guard, and you go, what on earth was that? Which brings it back down to an 8 out of 10. But it is still a great movie. But as an adaptation, it's a 10 out of 10. No doubt about it. Yeah. And just like that, we're through with both movies. Next time, we'll take a look at... wait, what the hell are we going to take a look at? No, it's not here. It's not... Oh, it's over here. Ah. Oh, there we go. Weird. Could have sworn I already had seen like a movie about the Wolverine. But alas, I must have been mistaken. Couldn't be that there's an entire trilogy of Wolverine movies out there. Oh, and also, obviously, since we're still talking about musicals, next time we'll also talk about... And that's everything for now. I hope you have a wonderful fucking evening, night, whatever you want to call it, whatever time zone you're in. Just hope that you enjoy whatever, wherever, whomever you are, with whomever you may be. Whatever. Cheers.